Yo, what is up guys? Welcome to another Wild Rift video, and in today's video I'll be playing Khazix in the jungle. Now Khazix is the type of champion that is not like any other champion. He's very unique. You really have to play him in with a certain playstyle to make him work. And in today's video I'll show you exactly how that goes. So in the beginning part of the video I'm going to be showing you what to build on Khazix. I got a new build, by the way, which I discovered myself, but if you want to skip the build part, timestamps in the description. So let's talk about this build that I discovered myself. So what I mean with that, I was experimenting with builds, right? Duskblade of the Raktar, Yuma's Ghostblade first, Immortal Reminder second. I was experimenting with everything. So let me tell you what the best build is. And if you're against enemies that do not have a lot of tanks, or basically if you want to assassinate the enemy's backline, so if you want to kill squishies, you start with a Duskblade of the Raktar. And man, after this item, you're so strong. You get such a massive power spike, by the way. After that, you go for Yuma's Ghostblade. And here you see a tier 2 item. And that's right. So let me tell you about this item. So basically you go for Duskblade and then Yuma's Ghostblade, and then you only go for the Serrated Dirk, which gives you 20 attack damage and, the most importantly, that flat 10 armor penetration. So let's count. 15 armor penetration plus 10 plus another 10 is 35 armor penetration. So you're basically going to be able to shred through almost all of the squishy's armor in, like, when you finish this item in the mid game. This build gives you an absolute massive power spike in the mid game. You're going to be dealing an insane, like, absurd amount of damage. It's absolutely incredible. However, it falls off in the late game. And this is what you have to keep in mind. When you go for a build like this, which we call full lethality, which means full flat armor penetration, it becomes worse and worse in the very late game. So, by the way, this item belongs here in often cases. If you're against like a full squishy enemy, if they have 0 tanks, after your Serrated Dirk, go for the Guardian Angel. If the enemy have tanks, at least one tank, like a Malphite for example, I really recommend you to get a Mortal Reminder instead, because then you'll be able to actually deal damage to the tank as well. Now, does the enemy have tanks? A lot of tanks, you can go for the Mortal Reminder as your second item. And when you do this, you actually do not go for lethality items. Let me explain. If the enemy have a lot of tanks, like a lot, like 2 or 3, you still start with the Duskblade just because it's such an amazing early game item. But then you go for the Mortal Reminder, then you either go for Black Cleaver or Guardian Angel. Whatever you feel like you need. If you feel like you need survivability, you go for Guardian Angel. If you want to do even more damage, go for the Black Cleaver. See, the reason that you go for Black Cleaver is because this shreds a percentage of their armor. You're not going to be able to one-shot them, and it's not really what you want on Khazix, by the way. You really want to pick him against a squishy comp, but if you do have to play against tanks, go for the Black Cleaver here. So you go for Duskblade of the Raktar, Mortal Reminder, and then either Guardian Angel or Black Cleaver. And then whatever you feel like you need, right? You feel like you need a Death Dance, whatever you feel like you need. So that was it about how to build him. By the way, the boots that you want to go for is Ionian Boots of Lucidity. Boots of Swiftness could be good. It could, if the enemy is like really fast, or if they got the Cloud Dragon, for example, you could go for the Boots of Swiftness, but you generally don't really need it because you have your third ability and your ultimate to chase enemies anyways. That's why it's often better to just go for the Ionian Boots of Lucidity. For your enchantment, I really recommend Stasis Enchant, because it could be hard to just survive in the middle of the enemy with Khazix. So when you do get caught out, you can use the Stasis. However, if you feel more comfortable on Khazix, you can also go for Protobelt Enchant. What Protobelt is going to do for you is going to allow you to catch up to enemies very easily and surprise them really hard with that Protobelt. Now for your runes, if you're against a lot of tanks, you go for Conqueror. Otherwise, you go for Electrocute. With the Electrocute, you're going to be able to absolutely one-shot enemies, especially in the mid-game. As your second rune, Brutal. Brutal is like always a safe rune for Khazix. I don't recommend you to go for Champion. I mean, you can go for Champion, but it's just if you die, yeah, Brutal is just always going to be good for you in the early game with Khazix. As your third rune, I really like Adaptive Carapace, but I also like Hunter Titan because he's kind of vulnerable to getting charmed, taunted, stunned, things like that. So Hunter Titan is really good. If the enemy doesn't have any CC or any major CC, you can go for the Adaptive Carapace instead. As your fourth rune, Mastermind. This is so you can absolutely shred dragons. always go for Mastermind on Khazix, guys. As your spells, of course, Smite and Flash. So that was it about the build. Let's get into the gameplay. Alright, on to the gameplay. So we're playing Khazix, and let me immediately start by explaining how to play Jungle Khazix. When you play Jungle Khazix, you start at the red side of the map, and you really have to... Oh, by the way, something real quick. I adjusted the volume of my video. I basically made my voice louder and I made the game louder. This is because a lot of people told me in the comments that the ads were very loud compared to my video. So if you want, please let me know in the comments if this is better, right? Is this better, the level of volume right now? Or is it too loud or still too little? Please let me know in the comments, because I'm trying to make your experience the best. I do not want the ads to blow up your ears, right? So now let me talk about how to jungle with Khazix. Always try to figure out where the enemy started this jungle. In 90% of the games, he is gonna start at the red buff, but sometimes he could start at the blue buff. When he starts at the red buff, you start at your red buff as well, and with Khazix, you do a full clear. So here I see the Rengar on the top side of the map. You really have to pay attention to that, like it's really important here, you can see. And here I was like, okay, I can easily do a full clear. So I take the wolves over here, I'm gonna take the blue buff, and I'm gonna take the big fat brown guy. By the way, when you become level 3, when you take the wolves, you do not upgrade your third ability. You upgrade your first ability again. And the reason for that is so you can clear your jungle a few seconds faster, because you get more damage on your first ability. You're not going to be using your third ability anyways, right? So here you can see I'm just doing a full clear, and what you could do is you could save your ward and put the ward over the wall over here. If you really like, you can put the ward here to see if the enemy is doing the scuttle, but I basically know that he's not doing the scuttle, right? Because he started at the red side, I saw him over there, I know that he's on his blue side right now. So I'm taking out the farm, I'm gonna take the scuttle, and when I do that, I'll be level 5 already. I'll be level 5 at 2 minutes in 2 minutes into the game. And this is what you want to do on Khazix. Let me tell you the power of Khazix, which is power farming. Yes, guys. When you play Khazix correctly, and you really are able to like at least get a few kills, but especially farm up, you're likely going to be able to get like 2 levels ahead of the enemy jungler. No, the Fiora didn't actually go on him. Unfortunately, we weren't able to get that kill. So as I said, you can power farm on Khazix. He is one of the fastest jungle takers in the game. One of the fastest, especially when you take the big brown fat guy and the red and the blue buff, because these are isolated targets which he absolutely destroys. So as a Khazix, you really don't want to be running around and doing nothing like I'm doing right now. For example, I just wasted so much time for no reason. Like I could have gone back and I could have bought an item. It's fine, however, I tried to gank and I'm taking the jungle right now, but after this jungle, I go back, get an item, and then take my red buff again. As you can see, I'm not gonna wait for my red buff. I'm gonna go back, get an item, and come back into my jungle. And this is also a thing that's very important on pretty much any jungler, but especially Khazix. You really want to get that serrated dirk as early as possible, because that flat armor penetration, as I said, the earlier you get it, the more effective it is, because enemies have less armor in the early game, guys. That's why flat armor penetration is huge in the early game. Always start with the serrated dirk. Never start with that other item. I don't even know what it's called. So about the evolutions, I always take the first ability evolution, because the cooldown reduction is insane when you isolate an enemy, and also the bigger range is also really good. It's basically the best evolution of Kha'zix. The second evolution that I pretty much always take is the third ability, because it's gonna allow you to assassinate enemies even if you have to jump in the middle of the enemy, because you can just jump right out of them immediately. It resets after you get a kill. You could also take your ultimate if you feel like you have to get invisible in the middle of the enemy. I don't really use it, but you could do it because it really synergizes well with his passive. Because whenever you become unseen, right? Whenever the enemy cannot see you, whenever the enemy cannot see you, you get bonus damage on your next attack. And of course, it works with your ultimate as well. So here, unfortunately, oh, the Nami got a beautiful first ability though, but this is not good. Here, whoa, look at this. So this was a situation which was very bad for Kha'zix. Let me explain. Kha'zix is really bad into these like big range enemies, and he's really bad if two enemies are sticking together. because you're not going to be able to deal that isolated damage to the enemies. So here, I was just letting my team do their thing, and now you can see isolated enemies. And this is where he becomes strong. Ouch. You can see the purple around them. Whenever the enemies are isolated, you become very strong because you're gonna do a lot of bonus damage to them. And here I show you another power of Khazix, which is taking dragons. You take dragons super fast. And here you can see dragon doesn't actually take away isolation, and I just killed the Rengar very, very easily. Did you see how easy it was to kill him? So a thing to understand on Khazix is the dragon doesn't actually take away isolation. So even if the enemy jungler is on top of the dragon trying to steal it, focus that jungler. You're gonna be able to kill him very easily because you have your isolation on him. And here you can see I'm actually struggling to kill the Malphite. I almost killed him, but you can see that Kha'zix can actually struggle against tanks, like Malphite. This was still quite good for us because I got the dragon, I killed the Rengar, so I did my job. And here I actually got the glutinous greaves, but I'm pretty sure I undo it. Yeah. So I was thinking by myself, let me just try the glutinous greaves, but then it got to my head, it won't work because I'm a burst champion. You do not want to go for the glutinous greaves, just go for the Ionic Boots of Lucidity. See, another tip that I have for you on Kha'zix is during your jump, you can use your first and second ability, and you have to do that. So when you're jumping on an enemy, don't wait until you land and hit them. Just during your jump, spam your first ability so you hit it as fast as possible right when you're above the enemy. Spam your first ability and then immediately hit your second ability. What this is gonna allow you to do is do an insane amount of burst damage, and you'll get your first ability up faster this way so you can do even more damage. So always when you're jumping on an enemy, hit your first ability immediately. So here I saw an opportunity to push the turret because the enemy mid lane was missing, but I do not finish the turret immediately. I just go on the Rengar and he has to flash away. If he didn't flash away, I would have just killed him. So you can see, I actually have a good tip for you on how to use the ultimate as well. Oh, what's happening here? Uy, so close. Here you can see the bonus range of the first ability can actually come in clutch. I'm not even gonna upgrade something here because I just have to run away from the Rengar. So yeah, about the ultimate, this is an ability that I don't actually see a lot of Kha'zix players use to its the most effectively. Yes. First of all, which most people know the way that you can use it is obviously you can flank an enemy with it, right? When you're coming out of a bush, you use your ultimate to become invisible for like a few seconds and then you'll surprise them. But this is actually not the best way to use it. Let me tell you about the best way. So when you initiate a fight on Kha'zix, you'll deal that empowered damage, right? You'll deal the empowered damage because you've been unseen. But after that, you're not going to be unseen anymore unless you walk in a bush. So when you use your ultimate, you become unseen again. So you can deal that bonus damage again. And you have two procs of your ultimate. So basically you engage, you use your first ability, you use your ultimate, become unseen. You use another you use another first ability, which is going to deal bonus damage. And then you use another ultimate and another first ability. It may sound complicated, but it really isn't. Basically, you just want to use your passive as often as you can. So that's what your ultimate is there for. And here you can see I'm not just walking around trying to gank, I'm just taking my jungle. Because as I said, Kha'zix is one of the fastest jungler takers in the game. So let's take a look at this. Here I'm like thinking about ganking the Malphite, but I was like, nah, that's not gonna work. He's a tank. I could much rather help my team out here. So let me teach you how to team fight on Kha'zix. Firstly, I want you to look at this team fight before I actually tell you. Just look. Just look. I'm not gonna say anything, just look. Okay. What happened? What happened there? Let me give you a few tips and let me tell you what happened. So firstly, what happened was I found isolated enemies. I went on them one by one. I let my team engage the fight. I didn't bother engaging, but after they did the engage, they got a few enemies low. That's when I got in and finished the job. So Kha'zix is actually not very strong at team fights if you do not play him correctly. And when you approach the late game, like sure, in the early game you can catch out enemies very easily, but when you approach the late game, people tend to stick together more often. So the way that you can counter that is let your team engage in a 4 versus 5. You don't show yourself, you just don't even show yourself. And after they've engaged, like maybe a few enemies are gonna be low, maybe a few enemies are gonna run away. They're not gonna be together anymore. So that's when you step in. That's when you dive in with your third ability and just get a kill. Because you do so much damage. Dive in with your third ability. You really have to dive in on an isolated enemy, by the way. Do not dive into enemies that are sticking close to each other. Here you can see I'm diving in on the isolated Akali. As I said, you really want to go on the isolated enemies. So here I see this guy. What was that damage? Do you see what I'm talking about here? I did not initiate the fight, I let my team initiate the fight, and then after they initiated the fight, I went on the isolated enemies. And here, yet again, I was waiting for the perfect moment to engage an isolated Akali, but unfortunately, the Rengar was there too, and they did not become isolated anymore, and you can see, if the enemies are not isolated, you're gonna die. Because your damage is literally gonna go down by more than 100%. I think it's 110% bonus damage that you deal to isolated enemies. So your damage is literally gonna go down more than half. Do you want that? No, you do not. So as I said, what you do instead is you just let your team engage. Even if they're probably gonna lose the engage because it's 4 versus 5, you're gonna be able to absolutely demolish the enemies if you can catch out isolated enemies. And when you get that kill, of course your third ability resets and you can even jump away if necessary. Or you can of course jump to the next target. So I just talked about teamfights for very long because it's really important to understand how to teamfight. So here yet again you can see just how fast I'm clearing the jungle, and never skip this jungle. Just get it, because I just got like 500 gold in 20 seconds or something, or 30 seconds. Never ever skip a jungle, just take it, because you can take it so fast anyways. So here the Fiora is split pushing, and we should not fight. We should just let the Fiora split push, don't even engage, and don't even engage. Don't even engage. Why do you engage, man? Why do you engage? Don't you see the Fiora in the bot lane? Why do you engage? Why? Just look at how tilted I got here. I was like, just end the game already. Kha'Zix, see, this is a major weakness of Kha'Zix. Kha'Zix cannot defend. Kha'Zix is, I think Kha'Zix is the worst defender in the game by far. Kha'Zix cannot defend against minion waves because he doesn't do any damage to minion waves. You cannot stop the enemies with any ability. You are the worst defender in the game. So this just absolutely tilted me so much, man. My team, what were they thinking? Why did they just engage in a 4 versus 5 without the Fiora? Like, come on, man. This is macro play. Just let the Fiora push, and when she's with us, that's when you go in. Man, I got tilted here. So look at the build that I have right here. You saw that? Duskblade of Draktar, Yuma's Ghostblade, Serrated, whatever, and Mortal Reminder. And at this point, I have a lot of damage. This is like, I'm still very strong here, but this is basically the tipping point. This is where you'll start to become a bit weaker, and you'll actually realize that. Like right now, I'm actually going to be able to blow up enemies still, and as you can see, blow up the dragon as well, so fast. But this is the point where enemies get Guardian Angel. This item is devastating for Kha'Zix. You know, when the enemy ADC gets the Guardian Angel, it's actually going to be really good against you. It's going to reduce your damage by quite a lot. And they're all going to be building a bit of armor. And this is where you'll start to become a bit weaker. So you want to make sure you keep farming, you keep being ahead in levels, which I am right now. I'm level 13, I'm pretty sure the Rengar is like level 11 or something. Keep taking their jungle and stay ahead. This is absolutely necessary, because if you do not stay ahead, you're gonna fall off. You're gonna fall off. So the only thing you have to stay ahead in is level-wise. You just have to be 1 or 2 levels ahead, and you'll still be fine in the late game. Even if the enemies are all level 13 and 14, if you are level 15, you'll be fine, really. But if you're a level behind, you're not fine. You're never gonna be able to make a comeback. So here, for some reason, the Galio is engaging again. I cannot go in here. This is not a good moment to go in. Oh, that was a good moment though. You can see whenever I see an isolated enemy, I go in. Boom, isolated enemy. Here, boom, another isolated enemy. This is when I go in. So you really wait for the perfect moment. Oh my god, that Varus damage though. You really have to wait for the perfect moment. You can see that I'm never really in the team fights. I'm just assassinating the enemies. And this could be annoying in team fights because you're literally 4 versus 5. But as I said, this is the power of Kha'Zix. Even if it's annoying, you have to do this. You have to do this. So let's take a look at this. Of course, when I got level 13, I got my last evolution. And I really recommend the second ability because the evolution on your second ability is better in the late game than your ultimate. And let me explain to you why. Why am I getting these Insta messages? But let me explain to you why. Your ultimate is really good in the early / mid game because it's going to be able to deal a lot more damage in those 1v1 situations. But you're not going to be in 1v1 situations anymore in the late game unless you catch out an enemy. Your second ability has a 90% slow for like what, 2 seconds, which is obviously huge in the late game. So you can still do something in the late game in team fights, which is use your second ability. So yeah, what am I gonna say? I go back, safe. Yeah, I told them that I'm going back because I could literally get a whole nother item. And you really go for this because you want to keep snowballing on Kha'Zix. You want to keep staying ahead because that's how you can win team fights. Let's take a look at this. I could not get the kill. Like my team just keeps getting caught without me. It's kind of annoying, but yeah. And here I'm just analyzing. Oh, here I didn't go in the right time. I actually didn't go in the right time, but we still got the kill, which was quite lucky for me actually. And here yet again I actually did not go in the right time because they are not isolated. You can see that if you go in the wrong time, you're actually not going to do any damage. So keep that in mind, please. You really want to go in the right time. You really want to go in when the enemies are isolated. Otherwise, even if you're like 3 levels ahead, you're seriously not going to do any damage if they're not isolated. Keep that in mind. You're just not going to do any damage. So here, the Rengar is dead. And of course, one of Kha'Zix's powers is taking objectives. Just take the Baron. I mean, you're gonna be able to burst it down so fast. They're not gonna be able to do anything here. Boom, easy peasy. For some reason they try to go for it. We're just killing all of them. Yeah, this is the power of Kha'Zix. When you can isolate enemies, boom, boom, boom. Even if it's in a super late game, when they go in with 2 enemies like that, you're gonna be able to absolutely smash them. As I said, the only weakness, team fights. So at this point, we have 3 dragons. We got the Baron. I am level 15, the Rengar is level 13. This is perfect. Oh sorry, the Rengar is level 14, which is still fine. And I actually do not give the red buff to the Lucian because this Lucian is like level 13 and I'm level 15. Why on earth would I give him the red buff, right? Oh, they're going in. And here, it's a dragon. We just killed the Rengar. I should be able to just get this dragon for free. Just look at how much damage I'm dealing to this dragon, it's insane. And of course, when you try to secure the dragon, first ability plus smite. This is your basic secure, right? It deals so much damage. Look at the damage, man. What? When you isolate an enemy, the damage is just absolutely absurd. You do so much damage, man. What was that? What was that? Man, I'm just jumping all around. It's crazy how much damage Kha'Zix deals when you isolate these enemies. So I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please give it a like if you did, so I can see what champions you guys actually like. And yeah, that was it for the video. Let's take a look at how much damage I did actually. I wasn't even supposed to jungle this game. Someone just asked if I could fill his jungle. Oh, it was the Fiora. The Fiora asked me to play jungle because he didn't want to play jungle. Of course, I got MVP. 12 on 4. Yeah. So, thank you very much for watching. And yeah, I will see you all in the next Wild Rift video.